right, so I didn't feel like typing all this stuff out. So I will show you the difference between a regular way of iterating over a list and why you would use the list range of something and the values that you can't do with that. So I'm going to say my list equals Brandon, Jason, Christian, Kevin, right? So we got a list of names. And we're going to say, the first way I could do this, I could say, for name in my list, print name. And that's just fine and normal, right? Just takes a few seconds to figure this out, right? You'll notice that when it's going over things, it doesn't care about the list indexes, right? That 0 through 3 or whatever. It doesn't really care. It's just going over them one at a time and printing them out, and that's just fine. Now, if I use length range my list, now name is not going to be, we'll actually see this here in a second. When I run this, length range, range length, whoops. What are you using? List range. So you're not even doing the same thing. I don't know why I did that backwards. There we go. That'll make more sense. All right. So now every time I'm going over it, look at we have a number, right? And so now we are actually able to access the indexes, right? 0, 1, 2, 3. What's nice about this is I could add something else. Like I could say if name, well, I guess this is not really name anymore. I'm just gonna call it I for the time being because they're numbers, they're digits going past. If I modulo 2 equals 0, print I. So this is gonna only print the names that are at even indexes, right? So it's gonna look, it's gonna say, is 0 divisible by 2? And yes, you can say 0 divided by 2 is still 0, so there's no remainder. And so it will print that one out. I'm going to go back, and so Jason is at 1, so that didn't happen. 1 divided by 2 is a half. It's not 0, or it doesn't have a remainder of 0, so then that's a problem. Christian will go through, and Kevin won't. You say, well, okay, so this is kind of a problem. This is kind of obnoxious. I can't see what the values are. I want to see the names here, right? So you go back up here, and you just say my list I, and just put it in there, and now we will end up getting Brandon and Christian back because my list index 2 is Christian, and it will bring that back, which is really nifty. So that's kind of part of why I would use that. Now, another reason you might want to do this, and this is part of what's going on with your question for consecutive values, and I'm not going to show you how to do that, but what I will tell you is you can do things like this, right? My list I plus 1, and this will end up. So I is 0 here, but when I'm going to print, print the index to the right on the list, right? And so in this case, I plus 1 is going to be 1, so Jason actually ends up getting spat out instead of Brandon, right? And this is also all fine and well for now, so it spits out Kevin. We would have a problem because if this were an accurate thing, or actually we can throw an error here on purpose. Let's add Christopher. We will end up with an error here. It will be mad. So it's fine. It's all good to go. Let's get to about here. So right now we're on Kevin. Right? So I is 3. And so that's not divisible by 2, right? So we're not going to get Christopher printed out, right? But when we do get to Christopher, right, I is 4 now. And 4 is divisible by 2. It has a remainder of 0. And we're going to get to this print my list I plus 1, and lo and behold, we have an index error because there is what we're trying to print is going to be 4 plus 1, whatever is here, but there's nothing there. So that's going to be an error, and that's why we get an index error. That's why it looks like that. So hopefully this partly answers your question some. You should be going to Kevin for your questions. And I hope you feel better. Make sure you rest and relax. Like I said, we will take care of you. We'll make sure you'll be fine and get through this, okay? And hopefully this helps answer a little bit of your question about why we would use range, length, my list. None of the things that I just did are possible if you're not using that. It doesn't mean that it's always the best idea to use range, length, but this is going to be, there's going to be things available to you if you use range, length, like indexing back and forth. You could also do, we'll go back here. Let's try something else. If it's 1, we could do -1. We could go to the left one for each one of these, right? So the first one, and you might want to think about why I had to do 1 and why 0 wouldn't work. But 0 divided by 2 is 0, so it's not 1. There's not a remainder there, so that won't happen. We go to the first one, and now I is 1. And so if you divide 1 by 2, there is a remainder of 1. And so then you print my list, and it will end up printing out Brandon because, again, we're accessing these rather than the names. If I were to go back here, if I were to just go, this won't work at all. You can't go back and forth. We only have 3 steps because it breaks almost instantly. So you can't take Brandon and divide it by 2. That won't work. Anyways, hopefully this helps and explains what's going on.